Hey, I'm Drotos from keyboardimprov.com, and welcome to our third piano myth that we're just going to bust right open. This myth is that you always have to keep a steady tempo when sight reading. We hear this a lot. When you're sight reading, always keep a steady beat. Always keep a steady beat. People people who could barely read music hear this and feel that they always have to keep a steady beat when they're playing, with music or learning music or looking at new music in order to sight read it. Sometimes using a metronome, and it's impossible, right? Especially if you're playing music that's a little challenging for you, right? So as we're doing in all these myth-busting videos, let's look at why it's said. Because usually there's some truth to these things, right? But it's in context. That's the important thing. We want to understand the context. So when in sort of performance or rehearsal, I'd say real life playing, you're playing with some friends, you're playing some chamber music, or you're playing in a recital and you're a piano accompanist to a cellist or somebody, or you're playing pop music with a singer, you can't slow down and stop every time something gets a little difficult, or you're not sure what this note on the page is, or you hit a wrong note, right? We have to develop the skill to play in tempo, right? But how do we get there? That's the big point. So when we're actually practicing sight reading, and sight reading technically is playing it the first time you've ever played it. It's not the third time, whatever, right? It's the first time you've ever played it. Well, there's a few different ways you can go about it. Depends what your goal is. If your goal is to, yes, develop the ability to play in tempo while you're making mistakes and, hitting wrong notes, they're not really mistakes because everybody makes them. I don't even consider them mistakes. You're just playing, Is it a mistake when a baseball player misses the ball at bat right before they hit a home run? I wouldn't say it's a mistake. It's part of the game. We move on, right? It's going to happen. It's inevitable. That it's like a law of nature that we're going to play notes that aren't on the page, right? It's not a mistake. So, but if the goal is to keep going no matter what you should do is pick music that's very simple, much simpler than what you're capable of learning, and then you play it. So, for instance, this is Bach, Preludes and Fugues. So, so the fugue in B flat minor. So if I was going to sight read this, and in full disclosure, I've played it many times, but if I was going to sight read it, I would not play it at the regular tempo, which is about boom, boom. I wouldn't play it at that tempo. I would play it much slower, and I would go like 1, 2, and I'd go. And then you're looking ahead, so you can come in right on the beat. Looking ahead, there's a rest and rest. And so I'm playing it so simple that if I hit a wrong note, I can then recover. That was the wrong note. Okay, this is a little tricky. I can't get that left hand, but I'm going to keep the beat, keep the right hand going, and then I'll bring the left hand back in when I can. That's what playing in tempo while you're sight reading is. And you don't have to play every note. That's the point people don't tell you either. Usually don't tell you. You don't have to play every note. If I'm playing, Broadway auditions or something, and people are coming in, 200 people in a day, or bringing in sheet music, I'm not going to play everything note for note. I'm going to be able to play this chord here and there, work from the chords and make up my own accompaniments and then play what I need to play. Or if it's a classical piece, I'm going to leave out the notes I can't hit in order to play in tempo. So feel free to do that. Give yourself permission to leave out notes, because in this case, the steady tempo is much more important, right? The reason that we can't keep the steady tempo at all times is because the notes get too dense or complicated or something at a certain point. So you need to develop the ability gradually to simplify in those spots and prioritize keeping a steady beat. But there's another type of sight reading practice where you don't keep a steady beat at all. And that's, I'm going to use the wonderful Prelude in B flat. And again, I've played this, but it's a good one because the chords are dense. This is particularly helpful when you want to learn vertical structures, learn to take in chords, like 4 or 5 notes at once, where you just look at the first one, take your time, and then you assimilate it and you play it. And then you take your time, you look at the next one, and you play it. And so you get these like dense sections, very dense harmonies where it might be like this. Okay, now I'm going to look at the next one. I'm listening. What does it sound like? Okay, and now this goes. And you're really cognizing every single thing. That's the chord. This is the name of the chord. This is the, if you can, the function. Is it the 5 chord? Is it the 2 chord? What are the notes? How is it moving from one to the other? And you're listening, and you play these beautiful chords, and you just wait. And then the next one. And then eventually, this will get easier for you, and you can do that more in tempo. But it's not that we have to always sight read in tempo. When I was in high school, and I was, I think, 16, 17 years old, it was very difficult for me to take in these vertical structures. So I said, I'm going to practice the Bach 4-part chorales, which this is kind of close to, but a piano version of the 4-part chorales, 2 notes in each hand usually. And I did that for 45 minutes a day. I remember setting one of those old-fashioned kitchen timers where it would tick, 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 and then bing after 45 minutes. And I did it every day for, I don't know, 9 months or something. But I did not do that in tempo all the time, hardly ever. Just trying to figure out these chords. That's hard enough, right? Don't put all the extra pressure on ourselves to play it in tempo as well. So again, do you have to sight read in tempo? Well, if you're working on playing in tempo, yes, but pick something very easy and learn how to gloss over wrong notes and leave things out in order to accomplish the tempo aspect of it. And then as you get better at it, you'll be able to play more notes next time. The other one is when you intentionally say, I'm going to go out of tempo and I'm just going to take in each of these structures, each of these chords, each of these counter melodies, and linger on them. That will also help your sight reading a lot. The trick is to, or the key is to decide in advance. Don't say I'm going to play in tempo and then end up stopping and figuring things out. That's not the way to go when you're practicing sight reading. When you're just practicing a piece to learn it, absolutely do that. So I hope this clears up this myth about that you can't ever break the tempo when you're sight reading. You always have to stay in tempo. If you have any questions about it, please leave it in the comments below, or any other myths. Want to get all these out in the open and bust them all for you. So thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting me and one another. Good luck with your playing. And remember, always, the key is to enjoy the journey and let the music flow.